Okay, welcome everybody to this evening's DXY Securities webinar. My name is Duncan Cooper. Tonight's webinar is live Forex market review. Before we get into that, we'll get into the disclaimer. Everybody please read through the disclaimer. If you're on our YouTube live stream, I cannot see the chat, but you're more than welcome to watch, or you can join us in the webinar. I've given you a link there, so you can join us if you wish. For those in the webinar, I've got the chat box open and the Q&A box open. You can talk to me via either. So just take the time to read through the disclaimer before we move along. All right, let's move along now. If you don't know me, MD, hello to you. If you don't know me, my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm the Senior Market Strategist and Trade Mentor here at DXY Securities. And I've been trading in the Forex market now for almost 20 years, mentoring for more than 10. If you want to contact me, my email is on screen, duncan.cooper@acy.com. If you want to connect with me through the week, our website is acy.com. Go to the Market News tab, our YouTube channel at DXY Securities Australia. And if you want to connect with me, just head over to my Linktree page, get my links there. When I get access to the charts that I'm using for MT4, just contact Nathan.bray. His email's there at the bottom, and I'll put it in the chat for you all. Here we go. All right. So let's get into the webinar then. First up, we'll have a look at what's going on in the news. And I just want to make sure my screen's changing. Yes, it is. All right, so we have some high volatile news items coming out today, tomorrow. We just had the UK GDP come out at 4. That has further assisted the upward move of the pound to the dollar at the moment, getting it very high up there. We'll have a look at that in a moment. So we have 10:30 p.m. This is my time, Queensland, New South Wales time. US Corp CPI month and month, CPI month and month, year on year. Maybe year on year, they're expecting a slight downward tick. On the other ones, CPI month and month, slight uptick. In the core, even Steven. So, of course, we don't know what data is going to come out. We've got the unemployment claims as well, but the market will be very volatile after that. If it prints lower, that's going to suggest a definite rate cut, but the market may have already factored that in. And if it prints higher, then the US dollar is going to go up and the pairs to the US dollar are going to go down, potentially. So it's worth understanding where we are in the broader picture of price action. Are we at extremes, or where would be the extremes of price where we could get a turnaround so that we can see where price is after the event and then see whether we can execute trades around extreme levels of support or resistance. So I'll be going through that. So tomorrow we got the core PPI month and month, PPI month and month, same time, but into Friday at 10:30 p.m. And then on the midnight, we got the prelim UOM consumer sentiment. Now, this may get factored in when this comes out today, because they'll expect this will be very similar to this data print, but will still be volatile at these times, so be very much aware of that. All right, so let's get into the charts. So first up, it's the Eurodollar just moving up. And I know the pound's moving up. It's getting close to the yearly high, 28.93 at the moment. All right, so we'll get into the dollar index first of all. So this is a weekly range from low to high. We're kind of holding at for around the 79% level. So the question is, I go to the weekly chart, is this upward move here going to hold? Is this a pullback to then move up? So we may come down, test these lows today after the news event, or we may be holding at the 79% level. We won't know until the event comes out. So we'll just have to wait and see. But we've already had a rejection down here. Of course, today we are coming down towards there again. So if we see another rejection down here, then and we start to hold over the next day or two, we might see a topping out process on the pairs to the US dollar. We'll just have to wait and see what the dollar brings. S&P 500, no pullback this week at the moment. Still at the high of the move. I will be monitoring this range at the moment for a pullback, not trying to get caught at the top of the range. Just move that to 4-hour chart. And see, this is the area I highlighted on Tuesday. Of course, we've got nowhere near it. We just keep moving up. Now, if that needs to come down to there. If the data tonight is most definitely, if CPI rises, then the stock market will come down. So that would offer the opportunity for price to come down to this area, but we don't know what the data is going to bring. It's also last month's high that we've broken above. So this would be perfect support for the S&P 500 if we got down there. So that's 55.20 down to 55.16, but we're of course miles away from there at the moment. This may just have another day up. On the smaller framework here on the 4-hour, you could monitor this range. But again, even just pulling back within that range, we're still very much overrun. I'd be a lot happier waiting to see price come for a much more substantial pullback rather than a minor pullback. All right. All right, let's get into the euro dollar. So can be frustrating as a trader because at the end of the month, this was the high of last month, this was the low of last month, and we were down here at the end of the month. So one would normally assume we might come back up within the range, but maybe not as high as up as we've come before maybe further moving down. But quite clearly at the moment, the market is maybe factoring an interest rate cut from the US. Here on the euro dollar, of course, we've had an interest rate cut on the euro dollar side last month. We may have another one coming, but highlighted an area here where we could stop at over the next few days. There's an imbalance here that may need to be filled from the 4-hour chart. So that's this area here. There's 108.44 resistance where we struggled at this high over here before failing, reversing and moving down. So depending on what the data brings today, this is the top of the range area of 108.84, maybe up to 109. There's another high here. That's at 108.94. So if we were, what are we, about 50 pips away, give or take, from that area at the moment, we can definitely get there today when the data comes out. 4 hours is trying to break above last week's high. There's also an intermediate high here as well at 108.52, which we're almost pretty much tested. All right, so everything's bullish at the moment within the range of last month. Doesn't mean to say we're going to take out the high of last month. We could top out up here to put in the high of this month and then move back down the range. So difficult being a buyer. We're high up, back up within the range. If you wanted to be a buyer, there was the opportunity over the last 2 or 3 trading days. You had a pullback to the 79% level of this range. That's what you want to be looking for is a pullback to buy. Don't be buying close to the 127 extension. So getting into the profit taking phase of this upward move on the 4-hour chart as well at the moment. So I would be watching up here today. This 79% level probably won't come into play. I'll be looking more into this zone today. If price gets a volatile spike up there today, does it start to hold? Lots of 4-hour resistance areas over here. If we were to spike down 108.12 down to 108.100 would be the logical area to watch for support. All right. Euro yen just keeps moving. This gap that we got formed, this is my 4-hour chart, but this was a gap that set up last week on the open, start of the week, and we haven't filled it. But what we're seeing at the moment is a continued monthly upward move. We're trying to hold above 74.74, which is a high back over here. So it's a one-way street at the moment, but just noticing 174.74 could be, if we start to withdraw back below there, we might get a short-term reversal. But monthly trends up, weekly trends up, day trends up. And here is the daily. Now, we did have a little bit of a pullback, very minor. And if we can pull back, really, I think I'm going to go to my 4-hour chart. This consolidation for a while before breaking higher. Just want to see where the fibs line up. They don't really line up. It'd be pulling back below these tops, which I don't like. So really, if we can get a healthy pullback, at least some pullback, these highs that were should be the support area. So if you're not already long, it's difficult, do I just get long at the top of the move? It's not the greatest idea. Is look for a logical, where can I logically see a pullback to? All right, now, a lot of the time on this upward move, the pullbacks aren't that deep, and we're having days and days up. Is if you're prepared to be a buyer, then sometimes all you can do is look at the previous day's range and a pullback within that range. Now, today's range has started here. So you could be just looking within the range of today. In fact, today's range started down there. So you could be looking just within the range of today, and the central pivot point's there, where that low point is there. And really just looking for a dip within the daily range. But of course, at the moment, we're not having a dip. So we need to start to see a intraday top come in that we can spread the fib across. And then, there's a intraday low here at the 79% level at 174.97 and the 75 level there. So in actual fact, that would be a better area to look for a dip to if the market wanted to offer you a dip. Otherwise, you're kind of chasing price all the time, which isn't ideal. All right. Euro pound. This is where I said to watch on Tuesday, but we never quite got up there. And we've broken back down to the downside. So we're seeing a continual decline on daily. This area here where we've found resistance at is all these lows to the left on the weekly chart. Create a nice area of resistance to trade down from. And now we have a lower top, lower bottom. Really, this is probably going to be starting to form a lower top here, assuming that we move through this low. And on the 4-hour, really want to see a rally. This is nothing of a rally at the moment. I would much prefer to see a rally across that whole range. Back up and look to 62.79% zone. There's an imbalance here that probably needs to be filled. So that would be my area to watch, 84.44 to 84.50 at the moment. That's assuming that we don't need to redraw the fib if price keeps moving down. So this is, of course, low down in the move. You want to look to sell a rally, so you'd have to wait for a rally to occur. All right, pound dollar. Now, if we go to the day charts, we were down here. That was last month's high to low. We were down here at the start of the month. I was anticipating we'll be having another month down, but quite clearly, we've just reversed all the way back the opposite way, which makes life difficult when you're trying to determine where we're going in the next month. So we're coming back up towards the high of the year. A couple of areas. This was the high at the end of December. This was the high we put in February, late February into March, just early March. So can we break above this high? We're of course above this high today, but this whole area here, can we break above this area long term? All right, so what we need to understand is we have a major range that's been forming this year, which, is here to here. All right. So of course, within the range of the year, this is cheap, this is expensive. So are we going to see a complete breakout to much higher prices, or does this area once more, hold as resistance to move back down? Right. All I know is I don't want to buy here. I would need to see some form of pullback, or we've already had the pullback. We had a little kind of 2-day pullback here. All right. So now it's, where do we stop for the next pullback, or do we get a reversal? That's what I'm looking for. So we go to the weekly chart. Next level's miles away in terms of the weekly charts, 131.42. So the question is going to be, do we move above this weekly top here, which is that top there at 128.93? Now, the moment the 4-hour chart is, it was deliberating at this high earlier in the day, but now it's popped above, stops going off. But hopefully you can see the upward move that we're having, because we actually started a 4-hour downtrend and then we turned around. This is quite elongated. Really, if we're going to continue up longer term, you want to start to now just be patient, drag your fib up from low up to the high point. Now the 62 level overlaps with last week's high. That's at 28.17. 28.11 is a level of old resistance, so that could be now support. So you need to be, prepared to be patient. And can we pull back? If you're much more on the idea that the pound's going to new highs, you want to look for a pullback to get set for the next move up. You don't want to be buying the top of the move. All right, that's one approach. Next approach is that you think that, well, we'll have to wait and see what the news brings, but if the news comes out today and doesn't forecast a US interest rate cut, then this is probably going to stall in this area and then come back down. Now, we could spike above 28.93, take out a bunch of stops that may be above here, could get a liquidity sweep up here, and then simply fail. We were talking in yesterday's webinar about, will a double top maybe form here? Well, we're trading above that at the moment. This could still be a double top if we just reject this today, but we might come up to this level and reject. So, if we do reject this high or this high, it does then lead the question, well, we can't move through this area, are we going to see a reversal? So we're definitely in an area where we could see a reversal. We'll have to wait to see what the US data brings tonight. At the moment, putting all things aside, this looks rather bullish at the moment, but I just don't want to be a buyer at the top of the move. And as well, back to the 4-hour chart, one of the things that could happen over the next day or two, or even today, is we could spike up here today, test this high. We've moved above this high at the moment. This high could become support over the next 24 hours to then move above this high. Okay. All right, so those are levels to watch on the pound. Pound yen, with the pound dollar moving up so abruptly. Pound yen is just screaming up at the moment. You got the same issue of all these yen pairs. Really, I don't want to be buying at the top of the move. And you can see on the day chart here, we've barely had any kind of pullback. To the 4-hour, significant 4-hour range is here. Drag a fib up to the high, and look, this would be quite nice if it pulled back to 79% level, because you've got these highs here. Last week's high here at 206.43, 206.46 is the 79% fib level. That's like 150 pips away at the moment. Well, we could certainly be down there tomorrow or even later in the day if things get very volatile. So that would be an area to watch for a pullback to. Can you see, an intraday setup down here at a discount? If you want to be a buyer, you want to buy at discount. So this is a discount area. This is not a discount area. Trend's clearly up, so I'm not entertaining trying to short anything. Just looking for the opportunity of a dip. All right, it's going to be the same story on the Aussie yen, although getting a little bit short of the next major high. Squash the chart in on the monthly. So over here, back in 89, 109.54. You see it here, just there. So we've moved above this one. As I've been saying, when we're at extreme highs, we can often get a major reversal back the other way, but we're not getting that at the moment. And the monthly trend's up, the weekly trend's up, and the daily trend's up. Okay, we've had a little minor day down here, but all these candles are closing positive, positive, positive. Offering very little dips at the moment. I think on all the, if the Bank of Japan's decided not to intervene anymore, because it just is it a futile act, maybe the market's decided, they're not going to intervene and there's only one direction for the yen pairs at the moment. Quite clearly the momentum's up. Looking for a dip, you would, there's the 4-hour range. Okay. 62 to 79% area overlaps with this little consolidation area that was forming for a while. So between 108.66 and 108.47. 108.56 is last week's high here. That area would be a good area to watch for a dip too. Aussie. Now this is holding at, it's not quite as strong. This line, this is my 50-minute chart. It's not quite as strong. This is 67.61. It's not quite strong. 4-hour chart high here that we're not moving above, which is this daily high here, which put in a inverted hammer of sorts at the 79% level of late December's high to the current low of this year. So, I mean, we could see price want to hold there because it's a, 79% level. So it's high up within, this wasn't quite the high of this new year because that was the end of last year. But again, when we look at price action in terms of high levels, that's high at the end of last year, the high price, and this is the low price. So, this is discount. This is expensive. We're moving into the expensive phase of the range. We often can fail at 79% level. There is a little imbalance I can see just in here that the market, could be just coming up to want to hit. So there's a little area there. So it's not quite as strong as the euro dollar or like the pound dollar because it's not taking out, moving above this intermediary day chart high. That's what's happening on the euro dollar and the pound dollar. So it is struggling a little bit there. I do think 6,800, if I go to the weekly chart, said this last week, 6,800 over here last year was very difficult for the pair. So if we get any volatility move up today on the news, if we get above 68 and then start to want to hold at 68, that could be a very good level for a short. Let's see if we can get up there. So at the moment, the 4-hour, we are still in an uptrend here, but struggling at this high. Till we get a change of structure, all we may see is a pullback to the 62.79% level area here, and it's the opportunity to buy a dip. We'll have to wait and see what, as I say, the US news. If the US news comes out very positive US dollar, then we're probably topping out up there. If not, you want to be looking for a dip over the next day or two on the 4-hour range. Okay, New Zealand yen. Now, in contrast to the other yen pairs moving up and the pairs to US dollar moving up when we talk about New Zealand dollar, we had yesterday the interest rate decision, which didn't change anything. It's kept the same, but I think the talk from the RBA NZ was rather dovish. So are we approaching time, that window of time where we're going to get a cut? All right. Because price action certainly has been moving inversely to like the likes of the euro dollar, pound dollar. All right, so New Zealand yen, you can see the massive decline. Day chart still hasn't. This is potential support here because on the monthly chart, this major high here, we are still holding above it. The major high there is at 97.75. And we pulled back yesterday to 97.92, which is that old resistance. And we couldn't get down to that monthly high. So that is the support area. I said that on Tuesday. So if we can move, we haven't quite got there. So if we can move into that area, that could quite clearly be support. Okay. So trend remains up, but that's quite a nasty candle. So I wouldn't be opposed to looking high up to the top of the range. For some form of head and shoulder pattern coming in here if we came back up to the top. So looking at the 79% level at 98.79. Price may do this. It may come up down into support holds, and this is your area to look for your opportunity to buy. All right. So watch for that pattern. Does that pattern come to fruition? All right, New Zealand dollar. Just to the daily chart. We have the map. If you caught my webinar yesterday on double tops and bottoms, I was discussing on the weekly chart, we have a double top. Maybe anyway. Tops here and here. And if that's going to run to fruition, target for the double tops down here at 54.85. So the pattern is all right. So we can certainly run down that way if interest rates are going to get cut. And we have seen this week a 62% failure rally back up. So this range here, we've had a 62% rally. Okay. And then a sell-off with the interest rate decision. Now there's a little bit of an imbalance in here. So this little, that's at 61.13, this area approximately. There's an imbalance in there. This is getting actually held here by an old area of daily support from over here. So whether we can come up and fill that area, in a perfect world, it'd be great if we rallied back up within that drop. So the completion of that imbalance there would be the 62 level. So whether we can get up a little bit higher back up the range, so you could be a seller at a higher price. At the moment, it doesn't look like it. Price action, if we didn't have any news coming out today, price action intraday here is trending down. It's already held here at 60.98. So today, up here at 61.06 would be great if we had a bit of volatility. You just have to see if it can get up there, get back up some higher levels. So worth watching the 2 fib levels, 61.06 and 61.17 up here. Of course, on the 15-minute chart, the imbalance is a lot larger. So it's actually there on the 15-minute chart. So I don't know if the market will come up and fill the whole imbalance because, of course, it's dropped down because of maybe they're expecting a shift in policy at some point. All right, so look to some higher fib levels if we get a volatility move up. Dollar Canadian. Now this is the area I gave you on Tuesday. In actual fact, I got long in here yesterday at 36.10. I was hoping that I'd wake up this morning and find that maybe price was, a good 50 pips up the range, but it wasn't. So I just jumped out because I thought, well, price action today could just stick around 36.20, and then the CPI data is coming out, and I'd be in a position with no real profit, or worse, I could be in a slight drawdown when the CPI data comes out, and I would have to weather the CPI. So I did get a long in down at 36.10 yesterday, but so I actually was looking at this range on the 4-hour. I got long just below here, but I'm not in it anymore. I didn't want to hold it for the risk of the CPI if this didn't have a really good reversal back up, which it really hasn't yet. So at the moment, let's just break this down from the day chart. This is the range of last month, low to high. right back down to the bottom of the range. We're potentially holding on this old area, which is a weekly area of supports. You can see once, twice, 3, 4 times here, held a support. We did trade a little bit underneath, but then of course came back above, became support once more. So we're in a very strong support area. Now today, when price does its thing in CPI data, we may spike into that area, we may spike down to 136. We could get down to this low here at 135.88. But what does it do after that? If it withdraws back up, back above 136, 136.13, we're probably coming back up the range. All right, I was hoping this would have a nice bounce yesterday, but it didn't have a nice enough bounce for me to hold the position. But you can see today, there's nobody's been willing to push it below that area today. So we may just come back down to 136.13 when the news comes out. If this holds, then really you want to be looking down here for the opportunity to be a buyer. Okay, dollar franc. It's not easy, the dollar franc at the moment. It keeps chopping around 89.91. So the weekly trend is actually down, and it spiked above. It's been trying to get above 89.91, but it's got no direction on the kind of 4-hour chart at the moment because it's waiting for the news. If I was just making a decision on the weekly chart, I would say this is going to go down because of that rejection, and we've got lower top, lower bottom. And is this a rally to move further down? On the daily, you know, last 3 days it's just holding here. It's waiting for the news, so it could break above, it could hold here to move down. So 4-hour chart, let's try to get above, below, try to get above today. It's just, you know, trading around 89.91. It's got no direction above, and it's just a little bit below at the moment. So I've got really nothing to trade against. I'm at the area where it's either going to hold as resistance and drop, or it's going to break above. I've got no real reference point to trade up from or down from. So I would have to wait and see. You know, if we got a massive move up, 91.47 is your resistance from previous. And if we did drop down, 88.92 is support here. So those are my reference points. Dollar yen has traded into the support area, as I said, on Tuesday. So let me just count the days. About Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, we came into that area of support. Old monthly highs. Major monthly high, 160.33 that we just got fractionally short here. Then came down. Now we moved above. That's actually a weekly high. High line's the monthly high. That's become support, and we've moved back up. 4-hour chart is in an uptrend. Market's obviously going to react when the news comes out. It is a long way away. It's 120 pips away at the moment. We could certainly come back down to this area, and that can certainly hold once more for support. It's actually held on the 4-hour chart 4 times. Once we moved above, it was once, twice, 3, 4 times. So that remains as support down here. I don't know, but if we're having a continued upward move on the dollar yen, I don't want to buy at the highest levels. I need to see a dip. I could be drawing a fib in from, that's the last major 4-hour bottom, which is a slight higher bottom to that high. This high here at 61.11, just underneath the 62 level. That area could be support, but I'd much prefer this area down here. So it's an area you could watch. Really, this is a bit range bound at the moment. although long term, of course, it's an uptrend. So don't really like the position at the moment. I would just prefer it to be down here, waiting to get support to move back up. So I would just bide my time, see if it can come back down into this area. All right, let's have a look at gold, which hasn't pulled back to an area I was watching. Our day chart trend is up, and if you don't know, the weekly trend's up here. High bottom, higher top, higher bottom. It's been rather range bound and kind of mixed in terms of its direction on the daily over the last month or two, whilst the weekly trend is remaining up. All right, so the day trend is up. Really, today, this high here, 23.6867. Now that we've moved above it and the trend is up, you can see when we dipped down there, support came in just ahead of there. But that's, if we get a volatile move to the downside post CPI, then this is support. So if we were to spike down, then we came down into that area, and that's a logical area to expect support, because we came down. It's been this high has been used. Resistance spiked up to that high there, but it was resistance, and then we came down to this low here. Then we moved above, been a fraction short, becomes support. So if it was to come back into here, you would logically expect potentially more support, especially if we came down sharply. There'd be orders here potentially to buy, and then do we bounce back up. All right, so that's an area I would watch. Difficult at the moment with the CPI data coming out. All right, so that's my thoughts on the market. I just want to see what the pound's doing. It's just starting trade war at the top of the day. A little. The euro dollar, whilst it's traded above that high at 108.44, it's kind of just trading at the moment. Should really have a line on that. 108.44. Just traded into that high here really as well. So if we weren't having the CPI data coming out in a few hours, then this would be quite clearly a resistance area that you could start to watch for a reversal back down. And later in the day after CPI data, it may well be a reversal area to watch in any event, okay? All right, I'm going to leave it at that. If you came in late, be very aware of the high impact news item at 10:30 p.m. Queensland, New South Wales time, the US CPI data. It's going to be highly volatile. I'm not going to take a trade until post that. As I've already told you, I did get long the dollar Canadian, but I've closed it down because of this event. And I might revisit that later in the day if it lets me. Or, it might not let me. I may just miss out, and that's just trading. All right, so be very aware of that event, and also tomorrow's events, the core PPI at 10:30 p.m. on Friday. Both of those items are going to be very volatile, so sometimes you just have to decide to maybe sit on the sidelines whilst the price does its thing from the news, and then look to see how you can structure a trade, okay? So I'll leave you with that. If you want to join me next week, head over to the webinar page. The link's up there. My next webinar from me will be on Tuesday, where I'll be doing more analysis on the 16th. If you want to join me, just register your interest and look forward to seeing you then. Okay, thanks everybody. Have a great rest of the day and have a great weekend. Thanks everybody.